My name is Christof Mauch. I am from LMU Munich, Ludwig Maximilians University in Munich, and my area of research is the environment. I'm actually an environmental historian. Here at VIU I've been teaching two classes. One is called How Humanists Explore Environments, and the other one is called the Anthropocene. The Anthropocene is a concept that can be very useful because it helps us understand how humans have changed the surface of the earth. You know, how they have, especially over the last 100, 200 years, dramatically changed the surface by nuclear power, by, for instance, creating plastics or building concrete buildings. So they changed the surface on the earth in an amount or to a degree that is so fundamental that some people have called it the age of humans, like a geological age, the Anthropocene. That's the age of humans. So that's one of the two courses. Both of my courses are actually very much focused on texts for once, because I'm a humanities scholar, so you do focus on texts from many different disciplines: geography, anthropology, philosophy, literature, history, etc. But they're also focusing on the world out here as a text. So nature is a text too. And so we're reading books, articles, even some novels or short stories. We are watching films, but we're also reading The Nature of Venice. Both of my classes deal with Venice, and I think that Venice is the ideal place on the globe to study the relationship between humans and the environment, how humans have changed the environment and how the environment has been changed, how the environment is changing humans, how it's changing our livelihoods. The funny thing is, I decided to participate in this program more than 15 years ago, and I've never had the time to come here. I decided to go to Munich, LMU Munich, only because my predecessor, I was living in Washington DC, told me he wanted to convince me to come to Munich. He said, there are a lot of good things about Munich, and I was not convinced. But then he said, and if you are a professor in Munich, you can just as well teach in Venice. I've done this a few times. And so I thought, okay, if I go to Munich, I can go to Venice. But it took me so long, 15 years, to get here. I have to say that I'm very used to teaching to an international audience. The Rachel Carson Center for Environment and Society that I'm running is extremely international, extremely interdisciplinary. We've got people from every part of the globe at any time. However, what really was interesting for me and what changes a lot in me now is the fact that you have also students, some of them are bachelors, some of them are engineers, some of them are young, and to bring together a student, let's say somebody from China who's an engineer and is maybe 20 years old, with somebody from Exeter, a literary scholar, who have very different cultural backgrounds, to bring them together is for me one of the big challenges, but also one of the big excitements, and one of the things that I learned, because it's been so easy for me to teach in Munich. I know everybody, I know they're all on the same level. They may come from different cultures, but I know what to expect. But here, I realized that teaching is actually a skill. If I came back, I would be even a better teacher. I think you have to adapt a lot. And I learned that teaching is a real skill. I could add, it is fascinating to see that you teach a class about the environment, you talk about Venice, but you have somebody from Japan and they can contribute something about the tsunami in Fukushima, or somebody from China, you talk about damming rivers and they can talk about the Three Gorges Dam. So there are aspects about the classes here that help us internationalize our minds. One thing I will say is that sometimes you do have to adapt because of the diversity of the students, also because for some of them it may be difficult to follow and you may need a break. So what happened recently, for instance, is that my students said, it was a beautiful day, not like today. It was very sunny and even hot in April. And they said, why don't we go outside? And we had to do something inside, but then we decided to go outside. We were actually sitting here on one of the lawns, and we decided to discuss, from an environmental history perspective, the story of the lawn, the story of grass. Why do we have grass everywhere? Why is it green? Why did it become fashionable? Why is there grass in, for instance, in the desert? Why do the bungalows in America, whether they're in the desert or whether they're in the humid areas, all have grass? And so the story of grass became a topic of environmental history, and the story of this particular grass in San Salvador, because a monastery wouldn't have a lawn. Monks would have had herb gardens. They would have planted vegetables, but now it's a park. And so we discussed nature right here in the vicinity of our classroom. Well, I think I've visited many universities in many continents. This university is really running like a silent vehicle, like a well-oiled machine. You don't see much of the administration, but everything works so well. There are no problems, no clashes. There's no, it's just a wonderful experience to be here with an almost invisible administration that makes everything work, and it's almost like whatever you wish for happens without asking much. What made it really unique for me is that I'm not only a professor here, I'm also a student. So I'm learning Italian. I'm a beginner, and it's wonderful to study Italian here. Not only because I realize what it's like to be a student, so all of a sudden I'm afraid of what's happening, of the exam, of the midterm exam, of the final exam, so I can feel what it's like, what it used to be like to be a student. While I switch, at 10:45 I'm a student, at 1 o'clock I'm a professor, so I switch back between the roles. That makes it really unique for me. At the same time, the great thing is you learn Italian and you can use it right away. You leave the university and you go into your neighborhood and you talk to the baker, you talk to the vegetable man, to the fish person, and you can use it. And it's this combination of being at university as a student and professor, and then being in the city and making use of what you've just learned is unique for me. Maybe the dearest part of this program is the fact that we're all sitting in the same boat. And I don't mean this only metaphorically, I mean it, it's a small community, and every day you come by Vaporetto from San Zaccaria and come to San Salvador for 10 minutes, then you take 10 minutes to go back, and there are the students and the professors, everybody sitting on the same boat. You can talk to them, professors talk to students, professors talk to professors, students talk to students, but it's a small community and you get to know everybody within a short time. That's what's really unique. I think everybody would gain a lot by being a professor here, not only because of the internationality of the place, not only because of the beauty of the place here. Where can you teach on an island, beautiful island, but also because you can learn something about Venice that you can never learn unless you're here for several months. Venice is a tourist city. You visit a few squares and a few churches and a few museums, but you don't understand Venice. But if you live here for 3.5 months, which all of us do, all my colleagues and I, and all the students do, you are really involved with the city. And so it makes for an enjoyable and, I'm sure, very memorable experience.